Hey there, it's Fiction Friday. Sam with another video for you, and you know what I always say at the start of at least some of these videos: a good writer must also be a good reader. So, what are you reading these days, writers, and how will it improve your writing? What lessons can you learn from it that will help influence or shape your own writing? Great question. I'm glad I asked. Let me show you my answer because I'm excited about this one. So this is Excommunication, a novel by Peter Clines, part of the X Heroes series. I just finished reading it yesterday, so I have lots of thoughts and just I'm excited for reeling off the excitement of having finished a new book and being like and all that stuff. So X Heroes. Let me tell you about the series first. The series is a superhero zombie series. Basically, there's a group of superheroes, like in my story also, and then the zombie apocalypse happens, and so their task now is not necessarily to fight traditional villains, but to help this community survive in the midst of a zombie apocalypse. So that's pretty interesting. My friend Corbin recommended it to me a while back. If you follow my videos, you've seen Corbin on here interviewing and discussing things with me a few times. And he's an avid reader, and he knew I was writing a superhero story. So he was like, "This book might be kind of similar to what you're doing." So this is the third book in the series. There are five out, and I've only read three so far. I read the first two like 3 years ago, like 2019. Yeah, before I moved, before the pandemic, all that stuff. Before I was a dad, and I really liked them both. But it's just well, again, moving, pandemic, having a baby, starting a new job, all that stuff. I kind of didn't get to read as much for a while there, and then they were a little hard to find once I did. My library didn't have like this one in hard copy, only electronic or something like that. And also it took me a while to get a library card after moving and everything being closed for a while and with COVID there. Anyway, long story short, I read the first two 3 years ago, and really liked it. Really liked both of them, and wanted to read the rest. I was just like, I don't have a way to get them, so I just ordered this one on Amazon after a while, and finally read it just this past month. So I mean, it was worth the wait. I still like the series as much as I did 3 years ago. Still excited for it. Still want to read the next two now. So let me tell you a little bit about the series and what it does well, and just how I think I can learn from it, or if anyone else out there is writing superheroes or zombies, or even just sci-fi, fantasy, action in general. A few things you could learn. Okay, so this series focuses on a group of superheroes, like I said, and there's an ensemble cast, you could say, but they end up whittling it down to just four main characters. Oh, that's right. I will give some minor spoilers for the first book, which is just called X Heroes. I will try not to give too many spoilers, but since I'm kind of laying the groundwork and I'm 3 books in, I might say some things that you might not discover yet. So if you hate spoilers and want to avoid them at all costs, turn this off now and just go read X Heroes. But if you want to hear my overview, then proceed with caution. So yeah, in the first book there were like 5 or 6 main characters, you could say. But they've kind of whittled it down to four. There's the Mighty Dragon, also known as Saint George. It usually refers to him by his regular name. He, has flight and super strength, and he can also breathe fire like a dragon. There's Stealth, who's pictured here on the cover, kind of this hooded ninja lady. She's very much a Batman, like stick to the shadows, be secretive, also cold and calculating, and like wants to have a plan for everything. That's Stealth. There's Cerberus, who's like who's a ex-military woman, and she has this gigantic robot armor called Cerberus. And there's Zap, or spelled with 3 Z's, who's a guy who basically turns into living energy or lightning or something like that. So that's pretty cool. And there are other characters who come into it. But those are I think the main four. In the first book, there were like 5 or 6 main characters, but one of them, at least one of them, didn't make it past the first book. That was the minor spoiler, and it's also true of my book, of my 5th main character. So spoilers, but Yeah, so I kind of resonated with that. Just kind of now that I'm examining the tropes and seeing how these things work together, I'm like, oh, okay. He has an ensemble cast, but he, after the first book, focused on the four or so characters who are most important. Two male leads, two female leads, which is kind of what I have too in my story now. So I guess maybe I'm doing something right. I'm following tropes of others who have succeeded before, and that's pretty cool. So yeah, there's it just and he relies on like superhero tropes in the sense of like just I mean he expects the reader to understand that there's you know superheroes and zombies like in this case tropes of the genre are a good thing. Like yes, there's a little bit of backstory. I'll talk about that in a minute. But there's not like it doesn't get bogged down in the backstory. It gets like a brief origin for each character, and then after that you kind of just accept. Yeah, there are superheroes in this world, and yeah, there are zombies in this world. Like it doesn't have to explain the science of it that much. It's just although they have characters who are scientific and trying to figure those things out, but yeah, it's just relies on the audience's familiarity with the genre and such. Actually, the first book does explain how the zombies came to be in this world, and I won't tell you because that's another major spoiler slash plot twist. But that was one of the ones that made my head go mind blown. So really read the first book and figure out the secret there. It's really interesting. It just made me really fall in love with this series and this writer's plot twists and everything like that. So that was cool. Yeah, and there is a villain. There was a one recurring villain. Other villain forces too, and this is also a minor spoiler because you don't figure it out till partway through the first book. But hopefully it's okay. The villain can basically possess or animate the zombies. So zombies usually are just mindless beasts that can't talk, and they just kind of act on herd animal instinct. But the villain can enter their minds and like speak through them and see through them and act through them, and that's really interesting. I thought it was a cool power idea. I mean, it almost only slightly differs from zombie lore because usually we see them being like usually we see zombies as mindless and just not talking or anything. But and then when you do see one talking, you're like, what's going on here? What's the secret of this universe that they haven't figured out yet? And that's what it ends up being is that someone can possess the zombies. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, first book was I guess general. I mean yes, there was villain stuff. There was a introduction to the characters and just introduction to the world. The second book they introduced a super soldier group, like a military group who had been doing experiments with super soldiers like Captain America or something like that, and there were some rogue super soldiers still running around, and our heroes encounter those. Third book, that one I just read called Excommunication, dealt more with like magic and stuff. There's magic in this world because some superheroes use magic, like things like Doctor Strange or John Constantine. There's a character in here who is a little bit like that, because basically a sorcerer superhero, and his magic gets out of control, and there's more twists and turns there, and that's the third book. Again, there's two more I haven't read yet. I'm looking forward to reading them. Hopefully, the next little while. I mean, I know I have lots to read, and there's lots on my list, but I want to get to them because I'm really enjoying this series. It's just a lot of fun. Let's see. There's little Easter eggs for fans of comics and stuff. I mean, you can tell the writer's a true nerd, other than the fact that he's writing about superheroes and zombies. He puts in pop culture Easter eggs for sci-fi things, and he even like references the comics. There's one character who is a comic book fan and a pop culture movie fan, and he leaves little references that I get, and I'm like, yes, like I understood that, and it makes my nerd heart happy. I've just enjoyed it a lot. As far as pure enjoyment and pure entertainment value, I give these 5 out of 5. I mean, I know some books do different things. I mean, some books are, maybe deep and or philosophical or sending a message instead of in addition to being entertaining. Not saying this one isn't deep. It's not meant to send a message. It is written for entertainment, but for pure entertainment, I give it 5 out of 5 for me. They've all been just really really fun and kind of entertaining, mind blowing so far for someone like me who likes superheroes and zombies. Very fun, very much books that let me get lost in an adventure. One other note that I'll mention before anything else, they're not for kids. In addition to gore, there's gore and violence you could expect while from a zombie novel slash I guess superhero novel has action violence more from the zombie side of things. I don't think he lingers on the descriptions of the gore more than he needs to. The writing style is fairly, I guess, low key, like plain-ish. It doesn't. And I think it's a good thing in this case. It keeps you in the action. It doesn't linger on description too much, but the gore is there. But besides that, there's language, because people in real life will probably use strong language in these situations. And there's sexual situations too. So it's not for kids, probably not even for teens. I mean, maybe a mature teen, depending on parental guidance. But it's a superhero zombie novel written about adult characters for adults, like me, and some of us adults like us who never quite grew up, and still like these fun stories. So yeah, just keep that in mind. I mean, use your discretion if any of that bothers you. Really fun books, really entertaining books. Not for kids, probably not even for teens, depending on what your teen's into. But one thing that I can apply from these that I really that I would like to take away is in my writing is how he does backstory, and this is really interesting. Like I mentioned the backstories, and each character has an origin. There's 4 main characters plus others who are minor characters, and a lot of them have backstories too. So most of the book, and as it goes through the whole series, most of the book is written in third person, omniscient. Just not from one character's perspective. But then he does backstory chapters, and he puts those in first person. So like most of it is third person narration, but when Saint George tells his origin story, it actually is from Saint George's first person perspective, saying, "I did this, I did that, this happened to me." And it's interesting. So it can take you a little while to figure out like which character you're looking at when it does a backstory chapter. This one didn't have too many backstory chapters. I think books 1 and 2 did more so. This one had fewer than the rest, but still a few to set some things up. But that's really interesting. I think it's done well. I like that because my superhero story is getting bogged down with backstory. Some of you have heard bits and pieces of it, and how I've tried to like 2 or 3 of the characters who have interconnected origins, and I have like several chunks of backstory, and that to me are necessary character development. I've tried to cut them down, and people have suggested splitting it into 2 books, which I don't want to do, but might have to if publishers don't like it the way it is. We'll see about that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I have probably too much backstory, at least too much for some readers, I'm sure. He does not get lost in the backstory. There is backstory, but he doesn't get lost in it. It's a quick chapter, a quick interlude, then back to the action. So that's pretty cool. And he uses backstory to explain certain things and certain plot twists and stuff too, which I always think is done well. It's placed at a pivotal, suspenseful moment that is like once you see the reveal, you're like, what? And then the backstory explains what you just learned, and you're like, oh man, yeah. So it's really cool, really done well. Like I said, his writing style is, I think it's just kind of like, yeah, plain is the wrong word, but just because he does he does the thing that I struggle to do, which is say a lot with a little. He'll just he doesn't give long descriptions of visuals or of action scenes or anything. The action it's fast paced, fast moving, and so fast that sometimes I have to read certain sections again to make sure I got it, make sure I didn't tune out. But it's not like. But it still conveys the character's feelings and just the reality of the situation and kind of the tension of the moment. So best of both worlds. As far as again entertainment quality, 5 out of 5. if you're approaching it from a literary academic standpoint, yeah, I mean it's not high deep literature. You can argue about that, whatever. So take it for what it is. But for me, as a sci-fi superhero zombie action fan, and one who also cares about the characters and their human lives and interactions, for me, 5 out of 5. I've really enjoyed this series so far. I'm thankful to my friend Corbin for introducing it to me. You know, I don't own the first two books. I bought this one. I got the first two from my old library, and bought this one because I couldn't find it in the library anymore. Maybe I'll buy the whole series one day. I don't know. But I'm hoping to read the next two as well. And yeah, so that's the X Hero series by Peter Clines. So I guess the writing tips that you can apply are you know, when you have backstory, don't get bogged down, and keep your novel fast paced. Keep the action fast paced. If it's an action novel or a sci-fi drama novel, whatever. For a good great example of someone who does that well, read the first X Heroes novel, see if you like it. If you do, read the rest. Remember, take grains of salt, or take the content, mature content as a grain of salt if that bothers you. But otherwise, really fun novel. 5 out of 5 for me. I'd recommend this whole series. So go read X Heroes by Peter Clines. In the meantime, keep doing your thing, keep writing, keep reading, keep rocking, and have a wonderful weekend. Bye.